Welcome to another edition of the Talk Shop. This is the Candidate Awareness Tour 2024. It's brought to you in part by Martindale's Western Store, 217 Grand Avenue in downtown Laramie, and the good folks at the UPS Store, 514 Grand Avenue in Laramie, and our friends at Perkins Restaurant and Bakery. The Candidate Awareness Tour guest this segment, Troy Hein. Troy Hein, a candidate for Albany County Commissioner. And we are glad to have you in Studio 255, sir, and thank you for making this a part of your campaign tour.
Thank you, Eric.
Troy, if you have a moment, I'm looking at your campaign materials, and you note 46 years as a local Albany County business owner. When did you first come to Laramie, and tell us a little bit about what brought you here and what you do currently as a candidate for county commissioner?
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I really look forward to visiting with you and being able to carve out the time to do that. And I just thank you for working with my schedule. I guess the first thing I want to just say, 46 years. I came here in 1978 to go to school. I took several classes in several different venues at that school, and then attended just a few classes at the UW after that through the years. And so anyway.
You attended Wyoming Technical Institute?
I did. I came to Wyoming Technical Institute, and I took the auto body, auto painting, auto custom, auto upholstery. I took a lot of classes out there and to try to get as well-rounded as I possibly could when working on cars. And so I went from there to after that, I got a job in town here and worked at a body shop for a while, and then I worked around in some other places too. And then I opened up my own shop in 82. But I had several businesses while I was working for other people also. So if you're trying to do the math, that's how that works out. So,
what brought you to answer the call to file your candidacy for county commissioner in Albany County?
Well, I guess the best way to describe that is to basically say that through a story, and that the story is that. Well, I heard this story and I thought this is perfect, a perfect match for the explanation. So there's a man that moved into a small town, and he'd lived there for quite some time, and was going for a walk across town, and he saw a guy he'd never visited with before. He saw him up on the front porch, and he says he goes up there and he starts visiting. They're sitting in the chairs there, and about every 2 or 3 minutes, there's a big old hound dog laying there, and he kept raising up on his front legs, and he would howl, and then he'd lay back down. And this happened 4 or 5 times in about 10 minutes. And finally, he asked the guy that owned the house there, and he said, "Say, why? What is wrong with your dog?" And he says, "Well, he's laying on a nail, and it hurts him." And he says, "Well, why doesn't he move?" And he says, "Well, it doesn't hurt that bad." And see, I've been in the background getting together with people and complaining and howling about what's going on and what the potential could happen if we get a lot less conservative values into our county and our city. And so I finally said, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and see if I can do something about it. And people can do something about it several different ways. They can run for office. They can support somebody that's running for office. They can talk to their neighbors and do different things. And this is the thing I decided that I would like to do to maybe help Albany County out. And I have a lot of kids that live here, and they have businesses, they have jobs, they have families, and I just want to make sure that we keep Albany County free.
I see that on your campaign door hanger. Keep Albany County free. Are there other ways that you see being able to keep business free in Albany County?
Well, yes. Less regulation, and the regulations that are there, I think, need to be relaxed so we can get some building going on in the area, both not just the city but also in the county, so we can actually have some more business. We can have more industry possibly too, and we can also have more houses being built because we need single family dwellings that aren't $500,000. We need to be able to build a house, have the builders have the incentive by reducing regulations for building the more affordable homes that a new family can afford.
So you would absolutely support it being easier to build in Albany County than present allowances?
Yes, I would.
And you note that you're a proponent of the Second Amendment and personal property rights.
Yes.
And in terms of the Second Amendment, there's a what is it? It's a red flag law that was at issue in the last legislature. And if your neighbor were to call you in and report you for brandishing that weapon
Mm-hmm.
or having a weapon that concerned them, they would raise the red flag to officials and they would come take your gun.
Yeah.
And is that support the right to bear arms that you from the position that you support the Second Amendment, or do you think that's allowable?
You have to explain to me what you mean. What is allowable?
Would you vote to support a red flag law that allowed somebody to call officials, sheriff department per se, and note that Troy Hine has a firearm, and Eric Henderson is reporting this as a concern to him, and would you support that gun owner having their gun taken away with that scenario?
No, I wouldn't. No,
Okay.
the reason that I wouldn't is because a lot of those red flag laws are actually being abused by just saying I don't like this person, I don't like something about them, and they use that to cause that person a lot of mayhem.
So if there were a higher standard imposed,
yes,
would that help you support
okay,
such a red flag law?
You mean
I already note that current laws already prohibit brandishing a weapon.
mhm,
That's
Yeah.
already on the books.
right?
So I personally want to know, do you feel there's more needed with respect to mechanisms to take people's guns away, or do you think that we have current rules on the statutes that are sufficient?
I would say what happens a lot of times is people, whenever they are reported, it doesn't get reported where they can innocent until proven guilty. Okay? I think that it goes against the gun owner because they're guilty until proven innocent. And I think that that's where the flaw is at in there. So how can we change that to the way that it would be more fair? Because if you're just accused, sometimes you're guilty, and that's not the way it's supposed to work.
Right.
Yeah.
In carefully planned decisions, one of the points that you recognize and state on your campaign materials. Tell us more about what you mean by that. Carefully planned decisions. What have you witnessed? Poorly planned decisions, and is that what brings about this statement?
Well, I have witnessed quite a few, but I would rather go to the side of how do you make good decisions like that? Because, for instance, I went and talked. I called up some of the people on the Boswell Road, on who the people were involved. I talked to the commissioner, one of the commissioners. I talked to one of the landowners there. And when I did that, I've talked to him a couple of times, and I wanted to find out what is the real story, and I want to find out from all directions what's really going on with that.
Whose responsibility is Boswell Road? Is it one government entity or another? Is it the counties? Is it the states? Is it the Forest Service? What's the current lay of the land with respect
Sadly,
to this issue?
the answer is yes. because yeah, there's a lot of people involved in that.
And how long has this question been allowed and kicked the can down the road?
The way I understand it is it's been over 10 years that it hasn't been dealt with in a meaningful way. Now, I understand there's some things going on right now that could, that looks like they're leading to some kind of a finality to it that would make it so that many parties are going to be happy with that. And so, and I don't want to divulge all of that because I don't want to mess it up. Okay, because there's people involved that have said things that haven't actually written it out yet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, very good. As you looked at this particular issue, you obviously see a systematic way to approach more problems, more issues.
Yes.
In the Albany County area. Do you have any that you would like to highlight that are part of your conversations, perhaps in visits with residents and constituents?
Yeah, it seems like the aquifer is a really hot topic, and I believe by talking to a number of people that live up there, that have been involved very closely with that, old commissioners that were part of the different, not, I shouldn't say old, I mean prior commissioners that were involved. There seemed to be a lot of misinformation and maybe not so much transparency, because I've heard things in the last week that I thought I was following it pretty well, and I didn't know yet. And they're very important things about how maybe some hot spots were cherry-picked to change the outcome of the ordinance or whatever, or the law. And so I would want to revisit that some more. I don't really have enough information to put together, okay, this is how we solve this. Some of that, I believe, has to be revisited with the engineering and getting some engineers that aren't quite so close to the problem, or quite so close to the possible outcome.
Do you think former commissioner actions were diligent at the time, or do you have enough information to say, or you just recognize that this question has not gone away and you are more than interested in pursuing more research and due diligence looking into this question overall?
The second one.
Maybe a different outcome comes, or a different variation would
be. Yeah, because I don't think what was passed was acceptable.
Okay.
Because there's so many different, the cherry picking of the information and the sin of omission in a decision making, which taking the things you want and leaving the things you don't, and finding something that will actually support maybe supports your ideas or your ideologue, and if you're an ideologue, and leaving the other ones and kind of not being transparent on those, I think is a big mistake, and I think does not help the public understand what's really going on and what should be done.
What have you done to prepare to serve the public as an Albany County Commissioner?
I suppose some of the biggest things, it wasn't intentional, but because I am a business owner. I've been a business owner. I've been a manager of businesses. And because of that, and I have had to deal with a lot of different things. I've had to deal with happy customers, very few unhappy customers, and I've been able to deal with that, diffusing a situation possibly, and getting the information that I need. Instead of just going off on what I think, I try to ask more questions than I give statements. And the reason is because God gave us one mouth and two ears for a reason. And he wants us to pay attention to all of that. And if we don't do that, that shows that we are maybe running on our own understanding and not wanting to listen to people. And I think we need to listen to people from all directions and then what you do is you bring all that together and compile that information and bring it together and say, okay, throw out the fringes. Okay, now let's see what we got to work with on the cool head side of things. Okay, because some of these issues can get pretty hot.
How do you balance rule of law and the Constitution in your ideal government situation?
Well, the rule of law, number one, the rules that are there, you need to follow them. That doesn't mean you don't work towards, let's call it purifying them. Okay, by changing them to bring them back to what is closest to the Constitution, personal rights, public rights, and what do we really need in a lot of this? When I'm an inventor too, I've patented a lot of different things, and you don't just come up with an idea, throw it out there, and go, okay, I'm going to be rich. That isn't the way it works. You have to be diligent on looking for, has this ever been done? Okay, and then you go, is it worthwhile building that? Are you going to throw a whole bunch of money for naught? So you have to do the research ahead of time. You have to look, okay, has this been done? Is there anything close enough to this that I maybe wouldn't get a patent and would not have any protection for my idea? And you look into all those things, and then you go, can I afford this? Can we do this? Can we do that? Okay, and there's a lot of things you have to go through. Then you have to build it. If you don't build it before you patent it, you're going to have to patent it 3 times, because you're going to build it this far, and you're going to go, oh, wait, if I'd have just put that, well, that's not in your patent now. So you have to go through the whole process, and you have to think it through very deeply in order to do that. And then when you're all done, and if you are awarded a patent, which I've been awarded more than 10 patents, and then you got to go either sell your idea, or you have to figure out how you can build it, and if it's feasible for you to hand it off to somebody that's really good at that, and take less, a percentage, or whether you should take that all the way to the market. And if you have enough money or support behind you to do that, then that might be a viable way to do it. There are a lot of ways to do things. You can license it for a short period of time. I've licensed ideas for 10 years, okay, and the patents, and it was successful to a degree, all right. Not as much as I wanted, yeah. So, but and then after you're all done, you got to realize your patent is only as good as your ability to defend it. And so that's why it's good to take on partners. You want to take partners that are moving in the same direction, people that will help you put your project together, because you're not going to do it by yourself. It's really hard to do that, especially if if you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
In your observation, attending county commissioner meetings and city council meetings in the Laramie and Albany County area, do you observe government representing the citizens or directing the citizens?
I'd like to think that I want to be the kind of person as a commissioner that I would do things for people, not to people. And that is a big thing with me, because if you start looking around, you may do this, but the unintended consequence is going to be over here hurting a lot of people, okay? Or if you don't think things through and you rush to judgment, that's why you want to get all the information as you possibly can. Are you still going to make some mistakes? Oh, yeah. Okay? People can be misled. There's a lot of ordinances that probably come together, and people were misled on the whole thing. And somewhere in the 10 steps that you got to get to an ordinance, if one of those breaks down and it isn't addressed at the time it comes up, everything after that is skewed. And so because of that, transparency is so important. I know it's a catchphrase that everybody wants to use, and they a lot of times want to use it on other people. Okay, but I've heard things that maybe some commissioners or some city council people even never got the information on what they're going to have a meeting about until right before the meeting, and they didn't have to actually have the time to actually study it enough to be able to comment on it and to have a position. It's just like our federal government. They've been working on the budget all year, and they got it done 2 months before they present it to the rest of the people that they don't want to see it yet, which I'm not sure that that's happening. And, that's a what if thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they want them to pass this budget the next day on a Saturday, and they give it to them on Friday night. How can you get through 23,000 pages? You can't. And that's how people hide, and they're not transparent. They hide things in those. And the unintended consequences of all of those type of decisions can be devastating to a number of people.
We're visiting with Troy Hein, candidate for county commissioner in Albany County. And on your materials, your campaign materials, you talk about Wyoming residents are hardworking, responsible, self-reliant, and appreciate independence that Wyoming offers. You are running to preserve the freedoms that Wyoming provides and establish sustainable growth in Albany County. What do you define sustainable growth in being in Albany County? What opportunities? Maybe it's a direction you'd go. What's your vision for some opportunities of sustainable nature in Albany County?
There's so many different sidelines to that, because we're talking about housing on some, we're talking about business development on others, making it easier for any of them to be done to solve this problem. I guess we have 400 or 4,000. I think it's 4,000 less homes to live in than could be filled. And with that being said, how do we make it so that it's easier to build those homes? How do we make it so it's easier for businesses to come here? And I like the idea of lower regulations than paying people to come here. Because if you pay somebody to come here through no taxes and a lot of this kind of thing, and letting a bunch of different things go that they would, and then the guy that's already here in business that they're going to compete with gets nothing except for he's stuck with the old regulations and forced to do all that. I just don't think that's fair. And so, but we need to invite people in and make it easy for them to, and there's never anything going to be easy. It's going to be less hard, okay? It's just another way to say it. But it's understandable if you can make it so that it's easy for somebody to fill out the paperwork, to be able to, even if some of the regulations aren't exactly what they wanted, they're acceptable and they know what they are, and they don't have to just figure out, how am I going to do this? No, they know how to do it. And they can do that right up front and then go, is this worth it? And there's a lot of companies that have come to Laramie wanting to build here, and they said it wasn't worth it. And that puts people to work, that puts people into houses, but we don't have the houses. We don't have the houses that are from the 400,000 and below. Now, I say that because that's what people have been saying. I think we need 300 and below, but with today's inflation and all the different things that are going on, it's never going to go back there to have a decent house at 300,000. So you're going to be probably bumping that 400 to get, I shouldn't say decent house, a house that people are looking for.
Mm-hmm. There's been a few studies. 2015 Thrive study noted variable out of 148 surveyed. There were percentages of which type of housing. Multi-unit housing was noted at 3%. So five individuals of 148 surveyed desired multi-unit housing. Well, in recent city and county meetings, we found a much looser allowance, if you will, in governance for previously authorized properties in development. Take one by Walmart. There's a cottage style that was approved. That cottage style is of the more desired, more demanded type of maybe in the 40 percentile of demand as opposed to 3 percentile. Yeah. But we're going back just to provide the numbers of housing available. We're willing to throw out prior government decisions
Mm-hmm.
and permit the less desirable housing
Mm-hmm.
just to get a number.
Yeah.
It seems. Does that seem right to you?
Well, no, it doesn't. And the reason, just to cite one thing that, the city council, we just went through that. I don't know how else to call it, but a debacle of wanting to turn one of the foremost parking places for downtown for those businesses to survive. People got to be able to park, and they were going to just forego a whole bunch of rules that they passed to let that be built. And fortunately they brought it before the public, not right away when they were in the planning stages, but they eventually brought it, and that changed because the public let their voices be heard, and that is important for that. So now, as far as the three, you said 4% of people want multi-unit housing.
It was five individuals out of 148 surveyed. So call it 3%.
Yeah. Well, it'd be probably a little higher than that, I would imagine.
Maybe towards 4. But
Yeah.
your position is make it easier on all building.
Yeah.
And let free market carry the burden of decision on what they provide and whether they'll sell it, whether they'll fill it in leasing, etc.
Well, see, there's so much more to think about whenever you think about multi-unit housing, because then you got to start going into all the rules on where they're going to park. You got to go through and see, that's what's on people's minds, I believe. Where are you going to park? How are you going to deal with this? Anytime you have a multi-unit, you have more challenges because people are living closer together. You're going to have a lot of different other issues to deal with, and nobody wants to be challenged on how they're living their life when they're right on the other side of somebody else's wall. But we have to have that. See, that's a necessary. We have to have multi-units, or we'll never be able to catch up on the number of houses we need and dwellings that we need in Albany County. And so we have to actually have those. And
As
the
part
way to
of,
fill
as
those
part of the
spots,
mix, or
it
primarily?
has to be part of the mix.
Right.
If it is not part of the mix, you're never going to catch up, and you're not even going to get close to catching up, because you throw a big group of houses. They're stacked together. It's called an apartment, housing unit. Multi-housing units. You throw those all together. Now you've got a bigger percentage of the problem solved. But see, there's several different problems. That's a student thing. So you can bring more students in, because WyoTech is looking for students. Incredible. They can't grow unless they have places for people to go. Now they have a large apartment complexes out where they're at, but it's not enough. They got to build faster and bigger. And the university needs more people too, more places for people to live. And you're not going to do that with single family houses because you can't build them fast enough for the needs. So anyway,
Sure.
I could go deeper into that, but we only have so much time.
You were taught to value hard work, and as you have prepared to take on the county commissioner role, if elected, why do you think it's important to attend city council meetings and obviously county commissioner meetings? That's the role you're aspiring for, so it makes sense to attend those. What's the value you see in respect to attending and educating on city council issues?
Well, the big thing is that because cities always want to grow. That's just what they do. They want to grow. They want to expand. And if the city wants to expand, and I hear word of that's what they're wanting to do, maybe have a 1 mile buffer, maybe have a 4 mile buffer. Okay, I want to know what's coming. And if they're doing a particular thing in the city that I don't agree with, that may come to the county. And I don't want that. Okay, I want common sense things coming to the county. And if I can control that, I don't know, if I can influence that in the right direction rather than control, because again, I want to work for the people, not against the people. Okay. But I think that we need to be aware of what the mentality that is going on in the city leaders is, so that we can see something coming, or we can take what they've done and the good things they're doing, that we can maybe use some of that. Okay. But the bad things, we want to keep that out. But see, they do good things too. Okay. So I don't want to paint them as the evil, because there's a lot of good people there. Okay. But I want to make sure that the people that I represent are represented well.
As we have visited, you noted achieving more than 10 patents.
Yeah.
You don't get patents approved without thinking out of the box.
Oh man.
How applicable will you make that as county commissioner for Albany County?
Well, that's part of the study of it, and for some reason, and I don't understand it all, but I see things a little bit different than a lot of people, because, and the only reason I know that is because people tell me that. Okay, and whenever they do, I go, well, maybe I do, but I don't think about it that way. I'm not trying to do it. I try to think about what are the unintended consequences? What are this? And how can we do it a little bit better? I was at a council meeting a while back, and they were talking about and there was a lot of attaboys going on, about the contractor licensing and all of that, and all the registrations of all of the apartments and the houses and the rentals of everything in town. And it's all about getting more information and control. And it wasn't that big a problem, but it was for some of the people that were living in some of the apartments where they weren't being paid attention to by the landlords. Maybe some landlords that were deficient, meaning they didn't live here. They just did not take care of the premises. Some places don't have hot water sometimes, and they take weeks sometimes to fix it. And rather than penalizing everyone with a broad brush, they did. They could have done something like one of the people on the city council said, the university, they have actually training. They have a class or a training somehow, whether it's a brochure, whether they actually have a class. She didn't expand on that, but they teach people how to rent an apartment and what to look for so that they get a place that they can be happy with for that year lease or whatever it is. And I thought, why not do that? Why take a broad brush and make everybody do all kinds of things that they don't want to do? And you can't blame them for not wanting to.
We're visiting with Troy Hine, candidate for county commissioner as part of the Candidate Awareness Tour 2024. One of the final points you mentioned on your campaign materials is with respect to conserve, steward, and protect natural resources. Would you expand on that for our listeners?
Well, the natural resources, I wear a T-shirt lots of times that says reuse, recycle, and something else. But I have a little bit different twist to it. I take a lot of things that a lot of people maybe throw away, and I turn them into something that I can use. Okay, that's recycle for me. Now, there's a lot of other recycle. I try to recycle everything I can. Whenever ARC had I brought everything in, reuse. I got a lot of old cars that could have been in the dump, okay, or in some smash somewhere and turned it back into, a park bench somewhere. I don't know. And so I think that we need to pick up our trash. We need to